Welcome. My name is Georges Verbena, and today I talk about mental illness in your natal chart. Ooh, how can you detect mental illness in the chart? Oh no. You can. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it today in this video. I'm going to also talk about the current astrology, and since we now have a month of the mid of December and we're coming close to the end of the year, we see how this Mercury retrograde is making everybody look at something in the past. Past patterns, past decisions, past relationships, something from the past that repeats itself during this retrograde. And now imagine if you were born with Mercury retrograde. Imagine you had to deal with repeating patterns all your life. Imagine you had to deal with unaddressed past issues all your life. But because it's retrograde, you may be repressing it. You see, if you have retrograde planets in the chart, if you have any kind of hard aspects with any of the planets, if you have outer planets, malefics, on anything and everything that is an inner planet like Sun, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Ascendant, then it's going to be a lifetime issue to work on. Because you see, your natal chart is an event chart. So if you're born with a retrograde planet or a hard aspect, you're going to have to deal with that event for as long as the event occurs, which is your life, because you're born with that. Now, many people don't want to hear this, because people are weak. That's why they are in victim consciousness, ironically. It is victim consciousness that makes people afraid of facing the fact that there is some things you just have to deal with. And your soul chose this, yes, unfortunately. I mean, if you want to blame anybody, blame yourself, right? But that's not what victims want to do, you see. Victims don't want to blame themselves. They want to blame the external. And of course, if you are so used to blaming the external all the time, you don't want to hear that suddenly the external has even more power over you, which is your birth chart. Oh no, so I'm already a victim and now I'm even bigger victim. Only victims are afraid of their natal chart. Only victims are afraid of some kind of issue that they're born with, because only victims are powerless. Only victims believe that they don't have the power to deal with it. Yeah? I mean, come on. Real talk. I mean, all these communities, all these groups, all these discussions online about, no, you can't diagnose somebody from their natal chart. You don't want to be diagnosed because you believe that you can't deal with it. You're scared of it. Really? You're just a coward, weakling. So that's basically the issue. So let's have that out of the way. Anybody who tells you can't diagnose somebody with a chart, they're a victim. Or they're just not very intelligent. Because let's face it, if you are born with favorable traits, good things, right? Like, let's say you have a fixed star, or you have some benefic on a big aspect like Jupiter on the Sun, Moon rising, if you have Venus on the Sun, Moon rising, if you have Leo Sun, Gemini Mercury, Cancer Moon, imagine having all of that three together. you have beneficial aspects. You have things working for you. So if you can have things working for you from the beginning, then you can also have things not working for you from the beginning, which is kind of part of this realm. Because if you're born here, well, the realm is your enemy. You have a reptile brain, you have a physical component in your body working against you. You have trauma, which is passed through your environment. You have a system that indoctrinates and brainwashes you. You have poison in the food, poison in the water. You can't even drink tap water. You're surrounded by hidden enemies. So, what's this complaining about? Oh no, you can. Of course, you can diagnose. If you have eyes, if you can see what's happening around you, it's a shit show. So, get comfortable, because we're going to talk about this shit show in this video. So how can you recognize it's shit show waiting to happen or already happening in your chart? It's very simple. Don't get stuck on squares, first of all. Now, this is tip number one. Most beginners, when they get into astrology, they make the mistake that they put way too much emphasis on squares. Yes, a square can be difficult, especially if it's like Sun square Neptune, Sun square Uranus, Sun square Saturn, Sun square Pluto. Yeah. It's bad. I know. But it's very difficult to predict just how bad it's going to be. Because everything in your chart works together. You need to look at different aspects. And that's not what this video is about. If you want to know how to diagnose yourself, and if you are a beginner, you need to work with clarity first. Get rid of focusing obsessively on anything that's not clear. And that includes squares. Squares are not clear. I don't care what other people say. A square is not a clear-cut issue. It's an issue. But how bad? I don't know. Okay? Unless you look at other aspects. So that out of the way. What are aspects that are clear-cut, 100% guaranteed, no doubt, an issue? A real issue. Like narcissism issue, like borderline, like psychotic, like enmeshment, like codependency, like arrogance, pomposity, lack of self-awareness, victimhood, What aspects show you that? Okay. Well, Sun opposition Neptune, Sun opposition Saturn, Sun opposition Pluto, Sun opposition anything that's an outer planet. Sun, Mars, Venus, they don't like oppositions. Yeah, let's just say it like that. Of course, they're not gonna be like narcissism indicators necessarily. But if you look at the chart, you want to have at least 3 aspects, at least, minimum, that indicate the same issue. The same issue, not just one issue, but the same. So for example, if you have Sun, Mars, Venus opposition to any of the malefics, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, that's one indicator. Now, if you add a Sun conjunction Chiron, Sun conjunction Neptune, Sun conjunction Pluto, or Sun conjunction any other malefic or asteroid, on top of that, you have 2 indicators. Okay, because the Sun is a very sensitive aspect. The moon is too. The ascendant is as well, but sun and moon represent your core. So any core issues, and core issues are very difficult to resolve because it's the core, it's your personality, then you better not have too many issues with your core. Let's say it like that. From what I've seen personally, you don't want too many issues, too many indicators with both the sun and moon, the luminaries. Okay, 2 indicators, sun opposition something, sun conjunction something. Now imagine if you had both luminaries, both the sun and moon, having oppositions and conjunctions with malefics. That's a shit show. That's exactly what you see when you want to diagnose somebody and you're thinking, damn, this person is just toxic. If somebody is really toxic, both luminaries will be afflicted somehow. It's very rare, and this is just my experience from looking at hundreds of charts, very, very rare that somebody is toxic, literally mentally ill, and only has one luminary afflicted. Very rare. It does happen. But when it happens, usually either the ascendant or the inner planets are afflicted too. Okay? And afflictions, that's something beginners have to learn when they get into astrology. Astrology is really a shit show itself. I mean, if you look around, if you study for a while, if you read charts, you will find that the vast majority of asteroids, the vast majority of outer planets, are all major problems. Conjunction anything, opposition anything. It's very easy to detect major problems in a person. You just have to look for those oppositions and conjunctions. That's all. That includes Venus, Mars, and to a lesser degree Mercury. Because Mercury is a trickster. Mercury can get out of situations very skillfully and easily. It also rules your health. However, since it's a Mercury retrograde right now, I want to talk about retrograde Mercury, because if you're born with a Mercury retrograde, it indicates difficulty to process past issues, past mistakes, because there's a tendency to ruminate. And when there is a tendency to ruminate or circle around something, if you have a lot of focus on one issue in your chart, there's a very strong counter effect, a boomerang effect, I call it. And this boomerang is going to make you drift into escapism, drugs, addictions, and vampirism, using other people to fill the problem that you're trying to avoid, because the focus on that problem is so strong that you are overwhelmed. Overwhelm is a very big keyword. When you look at charts and you diagnose people, you want to understand if somebody has an overwhelming principle. Something where you look at the chart, you look at all the aspects and you're like, wait a second, something's repeating here. Wait a second, I look at Sun, Venus, Mars, Moon, Ascendant, hast du nicht gesehen, over 12 house, over 12 signs, and multiple placements seem to do the same thing. This happens a lot. It's quite common, actually. So for example, need an example. Let's say you had Sun conjunction Chiron, and then you have fifth house Pluto, or you're like me, you have Sun conjunction Lilith and a fifth house Pluto, which I have. That's two placements saying exactly the same thing, which means there's a very strong focus, obsession almost, on self-worth. That's not a good thing. Okay? And I'm talking about myself. That's not a good thing. If you have too much focus on self-worth, fifth house and sun issue is a keyword. Look at the keyword. What is the sun and what is the house with the sun rules? If both have afflictions like asteroids or outer planets in them at the same time, you don't want that. Because that means there's going to be a major focus on that area. Which can be good if a person is like me, like a hero in the story. But most people are not heroes in the story, so let's be realistic. Okay. Most of the time, there's going to be issues. But that's an interesting point, isn't it? Like, what makes you a hero in the story? So what if you have multiple things doing the same problem? How do you get out of it? How do you fix it? Well, it's simple. You don't escape it. You don't avoid it. You base your life around it. You dedicate yourself to fixing it. You commit. Because if you don't commit to fixing it, it's not going to get fixed. And if it's not going to get fixed, then you're going to escape it, and then it's always going to be a problem. That's really just it, It sounds simple. It is. But most people don't do it. Most people who have mental illness in their chart, they avoid the issues. They don't want to deal with them. The issues are unconscious. Unless you are a hero, like me. Or you have many planets in the 12th house, which help because of the house of working on your shit, which I have, by the way, which is why I'm making these videos. Unless your focus, literally, is to work on your shit, it's very unlikely that you're gonna overcome challenges. Most people, and I'm talking at least 70%, never fix any of the issues. Really. Maybe a few, those which are not so overwhelming, or those which, if they are lucky, have been unavoidable for some reason. Unless you are somebody who focuses on your shit just as a life theme, a life focus, you just carry it until you're dead. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I want you to use astrology to look at your friends, look at your family. If you're not diagnosing people around you, what are you doing? That's the whole point, isn't it? The whole point is to identify issues in you and people around you. Do you have a person, a friend, and you know the issues? Good. Now ask yourself, do they have a life focus on fixing issues in themselves? If the answer is no, then the issues are just going to remain. You can try to help them, but most likely it's going to be on deaf ears. So that's very interesting and it's very helpful, because if you also have a relationship, if you're dealing with toxic relationships, if you're thinking about cutting somebody off, you need to know, is it workable? Most of the time it isn't. So let's talk about workables. How do you recognize somebody being workable? Number 1, 12th house focus. Number 2, strong, and I mean strong, sun, moon, or ascendant. So like a strong sun would be sun in the 5th house in Leo, or sun in the 1st house in Leo, or sun in Aries, conjunction Venus, or something. Or sun conjunction Sirius, like me, the hero. Or any other fixed star that has a beneficial quality. Also Jupiter, of course, helps. A lot of healers, a lot of light workers, if you can call it, I don't know, like people who help, you know, I don't really want to use light worker as a term, but people who help, people who are good for you, good for others. They have Venus, Jupiter prominent somehow. They could have also prominent Libra or Pisces, but be careful with Libra, because it's very polarizing. It can either be really, really bad or really, really good. And 90% of the time it's really bad. Real talk. Some aspects you generally know that they belong to the majority of the shit show. And Libra and Taurus belong to the shit show signs. If you have them on the big 3, yeah, this is not controversial. You can look it up. I mean, if you study tyrants throughout history, fascistic leaders, psychopaths, narcissists today, celebrities, most of the time you find prominent Libra Taurus aspects, because there's a superficiality, and the superficiality needs something to, like water, like fire, something deep in some way, to pull the person from complete focus on the external to complete focus on the internal. And that is another issue. But that's the point I'm trying to make here. If you have a chart that is focusing mainly on the external, which includes Saturn, Capricorn, Libra, Taurus, and to a lesser degree, Leo. If the focus is on any of those signs, be careful. Also, if the focus is too much on the 10th house, Capricorn house, the 5th house, house of public recognition, house of self-worth, like I mentioned before, it's a problem. If there is too much focus on the 12th house, the 4th house, or the 8th house, however, that's very different. Because then the person is focusing on the internal. If you have somebody focusing on the water house, good, okay, because means they're looking at their shit all the time. You can't have water house dominant person without looking at shit. It's just not possible. Yeah, really. And that's a good thing to know. Now, if you have somebody focusing exclusively on the earth element houses, 2, 6, and 10, which are about money, materialism, health, work, career, not good. Bad. Very bad, actually. Major red flag, okay? If somebody has major earth element focus, even if it's the sign, but to a lesser degree the sign is not so bad. But the house houses. Just no. Fat no. Because why? Let me tell you why. First of all, the 10th house, the biggest culprit, okay, is like no. 10th house is house of public recognition and house of public achievement. Now, why do you need everything to be public? Don't you care about your private life? That's a narcissist, literally. That's the definition of a narcissist. So just using basic logic, you can figure this out. Okay, next earth element house, 6th house. If somebody has more than 3 planets in the 6th house, well, 6th house is house of service, which should be good, right? Health, work, doesn't sound so bad at first. Now, it gets worse when you ask yourself, why is the person focused so much on work? Why are they focused so much on health? And why are they focused so much on problem solving and unavoidable karma? Because 6th house is house of illness and unavoidable karma. Unavoidable is the keyword. So why would there be so much focus on cleaning up shit that is unavoidable and perhaps unfixable? And why would there be so much focus on health unless the person is sick? And on top of that, the 6th house naturally is opposite the 12th house. Now you may think at first, every house is opposite to another. Correct. That means if you have planets in one house, they're automatically opposing the other house. That means they bring problems to the other house. 6th house planets means you have problems in the 12th house. And what's the 12th house? The unconscious. Mental health. So having 6th house focus, red flag. Now 2nd house. Why is that the red flag house? I've seen it very often. I've seen it so many times. Somebody has at least 3-4 planets in the 2nd house. And it seems it's all about goods. Exchange of goods. Exchange of physical pursuits, physical possessions. Why would there be so much focus on money, first of all? And why would it bring problems to the 8th house? Because if you have many 2nd house planets, it will destabilize the 8th house. And the 8th house is the house of power. So does that mean the person is powerless? What's wrong? Why do you have oppositions to the 8th house is my question. Why do you have problems with secrets, transformation, growth? Why are your planets opposing these things? It's a good question. Also a good question is, why do you care so much about money? Don't you have other values? Oh, you have talent, you have skills. Okay, but why do you care so much about your skills? Maybe because that's all you have? No. Or maybe because you feel like you don't have any other focus in life except to accumulate and to possess things. Well, why are you so possessive then? It's just basic logic. I'm just asking the questions. Don't shoot the messenger. But it seems to me like the earth element houses, they're malefic. This is just a theory. Not a theory. For me, it's facts. But for many of you out there who have never heard of any of this before, who've never even thought in the way that I think, you're like, what is this guy talking about? Earth element malefic? It couldn't possibly be. Couldn't be possible that some houses are actually worse than other houses? Could it be? Really? Oh, and that one element could actually bring more problems than another element? Could it be? Absolutely, yes. And if you understand that and recognize that, then you're the shit. Because then you can identify these issues. Because you see, if you're a spiritual being, if you're a soul, why would you care so much about earth issues, material issues, unless you identify with them and you believe that this is where the focus should be? But why should the focus be there? These are questions you have to ask when you read somebody's chart. All about questions, 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 questions. Be like a detective. Be like an 8-horser. Be like Scorpio, right? Who's the grand therapist? Who's the grand transformer, the healer, the shaman? The investigator. So, we don't want to leave any stone unturned. There is houses, there is signs, all giving us the red flags that we need to confirm what is really going on. Now, what about fire element houses? What about the other element houses besides water and earth? Okay, so clearly water, that's the good guys, right? Yes, believe it or not. I don't make the rules. And earth element, the bad guys, right? Yes, right. No. Oh my god. Honestly, I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. But most people don't want that. They're thinking, no. You're just discriminating signs and houses. I don't care. Then be discriminated. It's your problem, not mine. Because I'm not scared. If that's my observation, if that's just what I find in my research, which is very simple, I just ask a question and then I'm like, what's the answer? And most of the time the answers, you don't like them. And neither do I. But it doesn't matter. If you like the truth is still the truth. So let's move on. Fire. What if you have a focus on fire element houses? Wouldn't that be a good thing? Well, this is not even my opinion. I found that this is more backed up, historically speaking. That if you have a focus on the fire element houses, it makes a person arrogant, self-centered, hyper-focused on themselves, which can be a good thing. Because yourself, well, if you are the problem of your problems, then it should be good to focus on yourself, right? Correct. But if you have a lot of fire house placements, it can make the ego inflated. Or it can make the ego insecure. If you have malefics in fire houses like Saturn, you don't want that. You don't want Saturn in fire houses. Except the 9th. That's a big exception because I have Saturn in the 9th. No, not this. That is not why. 9th is because 9th is education. 9th is the most external of the fire houses. So it's not as bad. But malefics in the 1st house or 5th house, big no. And that's because it means issues of self-esteem. As you know, self-esteem is about your core. That means 5th house, 1st house, core issues. Do you want core issues? No, you don't. So, generally, not very good. It's not as bad as the earth element houses. That's for sure. Because the focus is on yourself, it's not on external. So that's great. But as I pointed at earlier, if you have an overwhelming focus on your self-esteem, not good. Okay, you don't want major focus on 5th house, 1st house, unless you have something to compensate. Like, let's say you have water houses and fire houses mixed. That's fine, really. Because at least you got the tools to work with it. Fire doesn't give you any tools to work with anything, except to get you what you want, but it doesn't heal you. The water houses heal you. So if there's too much focus on getting what you want with the fire houses, at least the healing will compensate, okay? So fire is okay. The focus there is okay. Having sun, moon there, good. Outer planets, not good, okay? Now, if you have air element houses, that should be interesting, right? What could be so bad about air? Oh my god, I'm just roasting all of you. Because air, I mean, except the waters, of course, my fellow tribe. You're the good guys, don't forget. Air element, no, I'm not a fan. Sorry to disappoint, but it's the truth. Because air is a social. Why do you focus so much on social? If you have a focus there, 7th house, 11th house, 3rd house. Now 3rd house is not as bad, because 3rd house is siblings. 3rd house is your close circle. At least you are more selective. Okay, in the 3rd house you need to be selective. You need to be intelligent. That's why it's okay. I look at 3rd house as very neutral. But 7th house, what is wrong with you? Why you have focus on the 7th house if you have planets there? The question is, why do you focus so much on other people? On their business, right? Relationships. Why do you focus so much on harmonizing, getting people on your side, being on their side, working with them? Why do you care? Can't you just work on yourself? Why can't you just be on your own? Why do you need other people? Because if you have a 7th house focus, your whole life you're gonna deal with people like the focus is on people. And the focus is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Many 7th houses become therapists, healers. It's great. They also become actors, models. They like to be visible. But they don't like to stand up for themselves. They don't like to be the center of attention. Because the mind has been conditioned, or the mind is just, I don't know why the mind is like that, but the mind is just focusing on other people's shit. Why are you not focusing? Why is the solution about working together? That means you will make work what doesn't work. You will work with people who are your enemies. Because 7th house is house of open enemies. My goodness. So why is the focus on your enemies? Why do you want to make peace with them? Why do you want to make peace with your enemies? It's interesting because it requires compromise, sacrifice. It's very interesting, isn't it? It's a very mixed house, the 7th house. I think it has good and bad sides, honestly. But is that really where you want your focus to be? It depends on how you deal with it. So like a 3rd house, it's more or less neutral. Having the luminaries in the 7th house, I'm not a fan. When it comes to how you are for other people, very good. But how you are to yourself, not so good. But generally speaking, in my experience, 7th housers are the good guys. I mean, having a 7th house focus and being a bad person doesn't really mix together. Yeah, let's just say it like that. Of course, it doesn't mean that I haven't seen some narcissist 7,000ers. I have. But it's usually because we have all the malefics there. So, unless you have malefics there, you'll be fine. Okay? Now, moving on to the 11th house. 11th house, if you have a focus on the 11th house, having planets in the 11th house, no. Honestly, just no. Straight up. If you have luminaries there, don't want luminaries there, first of all. Because 11th house is house of the collective. What does your core have to do with the collective? Nothing. Nothing. You are not the collective. You're not the drone. You're not the Borg, right? You don't belong to other people. But the 11th house is sense of belonging to the group. Sense of, I am the group. That's cult leaders, narcissists, and slaves. Slave consciousness. 11th house. Luminaries. Straight up. Straight up. Because it's house of malignant self-detachment. It's house of Uranus. It's house of, I look at the bigger picture. But the bigger picture is not you. Is not your core. So having luminaries, you, in the bigger picture house of other people, very, very bad. Because it means you base your core being on what other people around you are doing. What, you know, is horrible. Honestly, the 11th house is by far the worst. The worst. Biggest red flag house for luminaries. And most people have no idea about this. Never heard of this. Never heard of this. So it's like, you're talking about, why are you bashing my house? I'm not bashing your house. It's the truth. It's very bad. Because it means your parent didn't care about you. That's why. It's the house of cults. It's the house of community. Why do you need a community? Why do you need a cult? Because you are worthless. That's why your luminary is there. Not you are worthless. You're not worthless, obviously. But you feel like you are. Oh, shadow work. Oh no. Let's not go into that area. Let's not go into the mommy and daddy issues of luminaries in the 11th. How mommy and daddy have completely dropped you. Like they don't give a shit about you. And you don't want to accept that. Because you're not for yourself, right? You're for other people. That's right. Why you delusional? You're not delusional. You know I'm right. So then you can hear. Then it's no problem. You see the 11th house is malefic as fuck for the luminaries. So then you can heal as fuck. Because you're not denying, you're not escaping. You're not going to base your life around what is the collective in the world around you doing. Who gives a F about the collective? You and your core should never be in any house that is ruled by the outside. You should not be at home in the outside. That is not where you belong. Straight up. Straight up. There's only one reason why somebody has Sun in the 10th, 11th, 9th, or the 6th house, or the 2nd house, or the 7th house. Oh my god. Oh, the house is bad. No. It's just varying degrees. But there's an underlying theme here. That the parent fucked it up. And that's not to blame parents. It's just what happened. I don't care. I personally don't give a shit. Because I don't care if somebody has malefics. If somebody has bad aspects. Because I know they can heal. Because that's what I focus on. I focus on healing. I don't focus on, oh no, I'm a victim. Yeah? That's not what this video is about. So, that's why my message is not popular. You know, nobody wants to hear how there's so many bad things around you and we have to deal with all this bad stuff. I'm sorry, but that's my focus. Maybe you're not focused on problems, but I am. I am. Because the problem is the solution. If you don't know what the problem is, how are you going to solve the problem? So, it's good. It means acceptance. Yeah, my parents fucked up. I'm a 12th house son. My father fucked up. Yeah, my father fucked up big time. And the silver lining is that fuck ups is all I focus on. For the most part, not all I focus on. I mean, come on. It's not all I focus on. But it's so nice to be aware of all the shadows all around you and just be like, yeah, there's bad shadow persona. Oh, there's this issue. Oh, there's that problem. And then be like, yeah, just deal with it, you know. Just heal. Just admit that you have an issue. Let's work on it. Let's make it an exercise that allows us to get into the positive side of why you have those aspects. Why do you have malefic aspects? Why do you have red flags? Because it gives you a project. And that project is going to grow. And it's going to lead to a reward. Because nothing in this world comes without sacrifice. Your bad aspects, your challenges, your issues, they're your fuel. They're the seeds of your growth. They are your opportunity for expansion. And if you don't have squares, if you don't have oppositions, if you don't have malefics on your natal planets, where's the growth going to be? Without all those issues, how are you going to grow? If nobody pushes you, if nobody tells you, hey, you need to step it up, how are you going to step up? Just the universe to support you. You want to create a problem so you can fix the problem. And then because you managed to fix it, you know, oh, I can actually fix this. Ooh, I chose so many problems so I can fix them all. So you can be the hero of the story. Not be in victim consciousness, blaming astrologers like me. Oh no, you're so negative. Yes, victim consciousness, to blame me as being negative. Negative, because I use a negative approach to lead to positive results. The seed grows on the ground. You can't even see that it's growing. You don't even know that your negatives, which you're trying so hard to avoid, are the seeds of your growth, and they're growing constantly. Oh, you may be outside, things are falling apart. Not always, but sometimes. And when they are falling apart, when you have a breakdown, you have a breakthrough. And that breakthrough, that tower moment, that judgment in Taro, which is to be resurrected from the dead, it's never going to happen if everything is sunshine and rainbows. There's no need to adapt. There's no need to grow without the challenges. So it's good to have mental illness in the natal chart. It's good to have issues. If you don't have issues, what are you doing here? If you don't have struggles, problems, how are you going to achieve anything? Why would you care to improve if you don't need to? If there's no pressure. So you know the pressure makes the diamond. The diamond is this. All those hard aspects, all these overwhelming issues. Oh no, I have Mercury retrograde in my natal chart. That's a diamond waiting to be extracted. But first, you need to suffer. No, you don't need to suffer. But you will. Because it's just the nature of the aspect. Is it bad to suffer? That's indoctrination, brainwashing. That tells you, oh no, you shouldn't have any bad emotions. You shouldn't have any problems. Who says this? Some kind of psychopath? Psychopaths, they don't want you to have problems. Because they're children. They're immature. They're weak. You're not weak. So that's why you incarnate with problems. Because you know you can handle it. If you didn't know you could handle it, you would never choose this. Or would you? I like to think that we have all these problems in our astrology because that's what makes things interesting. And I want problems because otherwise it's apathy, it's entropy, death. Why is the human mind designed to always look for problems? Oh no, it's so malefic. Oh no, you need to meditate. Do you really need to meditate? Or do you just need to do the inner work? Yeah, your mind wants to fix problems because your mind is constantly trying to grow. It's designed to grow, to adapt, to evolve, to overcome. Because that's what it takes to survive. It's nature. You don't like nature? Then go meditate until all your problems are no longer problems. Until they are. Because the problem is still there. Whether your mind believes there's a problem or whether there's an actual problem makes no difference. Really. The problem is, how do you handle when the problem is there and your mind is complaining, your mind is creating anxiety, resentment, frustration, irritation? Are you going to be like a victim? Oh no, I don't want this irritation, I don't like it. You're going to be weak. Or are you going to be strong? Are you going to use that as fuel for your ambition? Yeah, those who hunger for righteousness are blessed. Those who have no hunger for anything, those who don't want to change, those who have no interest in fixing any problems, those who have no desires, those who are dead, in other words, they're dead. They're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help themselves. Yes, their mind is in this blissful white light programming meditative state. Well, nothing is ever happening for them. Nothing is ever changing. They're frozen. They're in purgatory. Do you want to be in purgatory? Or do you want to rise to the occasion? Be the hero in the story? Then your mind is not your enemy. You are the master. You determine what your mind is and how you use it. But saying, oh no, it's so uncomfortable, I don't want to deal with it, I want to meditate. You can meditate a little bit. If it's overwhelming, that's fine. That's fine. But if nothing changes, if everything stays the same, then you're gonna be meditating forever. And there's no growth, no adaptation. So the struggle is there to overcome, not to meditate away. I don't know. Who came up with this idea anyways? I don't know where all this programming comes from. I don't know why people have so much fear of problems. Because really, I knew that before I made this live, before I started making this video that most people don't want to listen to anything I have to say on the subject. They're not interested in their problems. They're only interested in the solution. But they don't know the problem is the solution. So they're gonna be looking for the solution forever while ignoring people like me. So the message is not for them then. The message is for you. Whoever you are listening to this, you know deep inside that there is no problem. There is only a solution.